I don't know where to start, so bear with me. I've been listening to your material for about a year and a half, a CD every week, just about, and really excited about it in the beginning and so on. And now, and I don't know how to say this without, I need to make it a question, but I don't know the question. I'm so stuck. And I hear the words. I hear the vibration, the vibrational escrow. I could write the book. I could practically write the book. And yet, I can't find the opening. And I keep thinking it should be about thinking the thoughts, you know, and I sometimes think some thoughts and I get distracted and I don't think the thoughts. And then I listen to one of your CDs again, over and over and over again. And the frustration increases. And I would like to be able to understand the words like other people understand the words. When you say whatever is in vibrational escrow is really yours, you just have to, my words now, work your vibration to get there, you know. And that's where I am, not knowing my money well-being and so on. Everything there is just fine and better than fine. My personal well-being, I would like to feel good. I want to feel good mentally, emotionally, every which way. And that's where where the challenge is.
Well, you're offering some very good words here as you are using words like I'm stuck and it's challenging. And that's just fine, because there's nothing whatsoever wrong with speaking about where you are, because you can get from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. You just can't jump there all at once. When the announcement of where you are out in the ocean came across the speaker today, Esther said, interesting, we're not even halfway there. And she thought about, because they drive this big monster bus around, and it's sort of slow going too. An airplane, a much faster way of getting somewhere, and a boat, sort of the slow way of getting there, and the motor coach, a slow way of getting there. And it sort of caused Esther to stop and think about how maybe life isn't about getting there. Maybe it's about going somewhere, because she and Jerry had been saying all morning, and yesterday too, that they just couldn't imagine a better place to be than right here out in the middle of the deep blue sea. And so as they, in other words, there are things they're looking forward to, but right now they're out in the middle of the deep blue sea. And isn't it nice to be out in the middle of the deep blue sea? And so this is what we were talking about earlier, about making peace with where you are goes a long way in then, and it seems like a funny thing to say, if you make peace with where you are, you'll get to where you want to be faster. Sounds screwy, doesn't it? Well, Abraham, if I make peace with where I am, then won't I not care about getting someplace else? And we say, doesn't work that way, because you've already identified where you want to be, and making peace with where you are just closes that gap more quickly, you see. So when you say I'm stuck, you amplify where you are, and you amplify a resistance, and you amplify a slowness of the movement to where you want to be. When you soften that statement just the slightest bit by saying, I'll figure it out, or I have already figured it out relative to money, or it works for me in some ways and better than others, you soften that resistance just a little bit, you see. We, some time ago, changed the name of this gathering from the science of deliberate creation to the art of allowing for exactly someone like you. Because we saw you listening to the tapes, studying, learning about vibration, learning about deliberate creation, learning about law of attraction, and we watched you becoming too conscious of every thought that you were thinking. And so now we want to say to you, we're much more interested in your conscious awareness of how you feel than in the thoughts you're thinking. But then your intellect says, but Abraham, I learned from you, I heard it on the CD, that first there's a thought and then there's a feeling response. And we say, that's true. Your emotions are giving you feedback on the combination of thoughts that you are thinking. But what you're wanting to do is reach for feelings in order to choose the thoughts. So here's what we want you to do, and just practice it for a day or two, and we'll visit with you again before we are finished with this cruise. We will leave it to you to make sure that you get in the chair again, but we will talk to you again as we are coming back across the ocean. And here's the thing that we want you to focus upon in the meantime. I want to feel less stuck. I want to feel less stuck. I want to feel a little freer. In other words, we don't want you to say, I'm going to get everything solved on this cruise, although you may. We want you to say, I want to feel less stuck. I want to be out in the middle of the deep blue sea. And I want it to be all right that that's right where I am for now. In other words, that's one of the most magnificent things about being out here with every visual goal out of sight. In other words, it's out of sight. You know where you're going, but you can't see it. And you're all operating on trust that somebody knows where this ship is going. And we don't see any of you, not one of you, in your cabin at night with the maps of the sea and the charts. Esther read the longitude and latitude on the screen and she thought, yeah. In other words, she didn't even ask for a big globe so that she could pinpoint it. In other words, it just doesn't matter because she trusts that somebody's taken care of that. And we want you to understand that, oh, there is a navigational team in the sky that's got your back. In other words, you have launched so much into vibrational escrow, and you are in such good hands. And it really is your job to relax and go to dinner and have fun and play bingo. In other words, we're speaking of life-wise. We're not speaking ship-wise. We're talking about anything that you can do that can distract you from the responsibility of your life, because it's that feeling of being responsible to guide myself that's got you all balled up. And when you just relax with an attitude of trust that it's being guided, and I have launched the rockets, and I was source energy before I got here, and my life experience has caused that non-physical part of me to become more, and the calling is there, and I'm listening for the calling. Now, here you're going to hear the answer to your question now. We think that you will hear it and feel it, and then you'll have some time to practice it before we visit again. Do you intellectually, if not viscerally, do you intellectually get it that your perusal through the data of your life actually causes a launching of desires that the non-physical part of you instantaneously becomes? Oh, that's so big. It is so big. And once you begin to grasp that, in other words, that, and it takes true wisdom to get that. Most humans are so far from remembering that your life experience is causing the whole of you to become more. In other words, you are evolving right through the contrasting experiences that you're living. And we don't mean big, bad, good experiences. We just mean the variety of life experience is causing the source within you to become constantly, to become more than you were before you were born, and that you were on the first day and the second day and the third day and the fourth day. In other words, every day causes you to, in the whole sense of who you are, to become more. And that part of you now stands as your beckoning light, calling you to the completion of that, knowing that then there will be more that you will be called to the completion of that, and then there will be more that you will be called to the completion of that. In other words, it never, ever ends. So the stuckness that you feel is that you can feel on many levels of your being that you've become more than you're letting yourself go to. In other words, that's the only thing that could explain that feeling that is within you. You can feel that you've become so much more than you're letting yourself quite be. And we can feel that the reason that you're not letting yourself quite be it is because you're trying to take too big of jumps to it.
You know, the emotional scale.
Yes.
When I've heard you many times talking about the emotional scale, I don't even know how to take a step from one to the other. It always happens for me accidentally. In other words, recently I wished something and it was less than I wanted, but I thought I would be satisfied with it. Got it just like that. But actually taking the steps on the emotional scale, think to myself, oh, how does this feel? I don't know how it feels going along like that.
Well, that's because what's happening to you is the intensity of all that you've become is calling you so loud, and you have a misunderstanding. Oh, this is so good. You're gonna get this. Your expectation of that call is different than it sounds. In other words, wouldn't most of you expect source energy to sound like harps and angels singing? Wouldn't most of you expect source energy to sound like joy and all of that eagerness and passion? But even though that's the vibration that source energy is beckoning you with, if you're in despair or anger or fear or stuckness, it doesn't sound like angels singing. It sounds like rebellion. It sounds like revenge. It sounds like an improvement about where you are. And we think that so many of you have a preconceived notion of how you're supposed to feel. And so then you're just mad at yourself for not making that jump all of a sudden. So that's why you're having a hard time taking those incremental steps. You haven't given yourself permission to move up the emotional scale. You're demanding of yourself, and we have to say, you've been this way a very long time. You're very hard on yourself.
All my life.
You are demanding of yourself that you get it and that you move quickly. And it may be because you've had critical eyes scrutinizing you for as long as you can remember, and you're trying to live up to whatever that is, but you got to let that go. They don't know. And you've got to just let yourself feel the relief. Esther and Jerry had an experience not too long ago where Esther was stunned to find herself feeling powerless. A situation occurred over which she felt she had no power whatsoever, and she jumped right into revenge and loved it. Right into revenge. And she said to Jerry, I know this is not a pretty sight, but buzz off, because I feel better here than where I just was. And there was moderate embarrassment on Esther's part, because she knows that she wants to believe that she should never get herself into a powerless place. And we say, Esther, you mean you don't want to let yourself out to play at all? You don't want to be out there mixing it up with others. You don't want to hear what people have to say. You don't want to play in the game of life at all. You just want to move into some safe little corner where you've got everything all figured out, where you can never make a mistake. Is that what you really want? And Esther said, no, I want to be out there playing. And we said, then don't feel bad if you tip over on your bicycle. And don't feel embarrassed about skinning your knees. And don't feel bad if revenge is the best you can do. Because if it's an improvement on where you were, then so be it. Have a party in revenge, you see.